Well, hello friends! Welcome back to Belle's Library. I'm Heather, and today we are going to be doing the mid-year book freakout tag. I'm pretty sure I did this last year, and so we're going to see how the books are doing, considering we're almost halfway through the year, and I've got about 13 different question prompts going on with this one. I know it's a very popular tag, so I know there's a ton of people that do this, so you can check theirs out after mine or before mine or whatever you're doing. But before we do any of that, let's go ahead and click that subscribe button for me down below, and might as well do the little thumbs up. I also have my Goodreads and Instagram linked for you guys if you want to check any of that out. So the first prompt is the best book that I've read so far in 2021. I'd probably easily do a whole video on this. I have so many that I have really enjoyed this year, and I am enveloped in my reading and I'm loving it. So I'm gonna go with one book on this, but realize that when I made this, I had a list of quite a few books, and I probably will end up making a video of the books I've enjoyed the most so far this year. But I tried to basically put all of those favorite books into some of these other categories and just not double up on a bunch of books. But a lot of the books that I am mentioning in here are part of that best of 2021. So the first book we're going to talk about, though, is The Poet X by Elizabeth Acevedo. I have read all 3 of her books so far that she's come out with, and this one was my favorite. I read this back in February, and it was so moving and beautiful. I love her writing. This is told in verse, and I listened to the audiobook because I just really enjoy listening to her books. She does them herself, and it's amazing. So in this book, we are following Xiomara, and she has this notebook. She does all of this beautiful poetry, and she's very into writing, and her teacher invites her to the slam poetry club at her school, and she really wants to do it, but her mom doesn't totally agree with it, and her mom really wants her to get more involved with the church and stuff like that, and she's like, but I'm really interested in this. And so they're kind of having their struggles, as well as she's just trying to find herself and find where she fits in and find the courage to do slam poetry in front of people. And it's just, I don't know, it's just touching and beautiful, and I really, really enjoyed this book. So if you haven't picked up any Elizabeth Acevedo books, they're wonderful. This one just happens to be my favorite, and the one we're going with for prompt number 1 here. So the next question is the best sequel that I have read so far this year. And I've read a number of sequels. I'm really trying to be better about reading sequels and finishing up some series. But I would have to say that my favorite one came from the Wayward Children series. I read books 3, 4, and 5 in January from the series, and Beneath the Sugar Sky, which is book number 3, was so good. I loved it. It was my favorite out of the series so far. These are all by Seanan McGuire as well. So these stories basically follow these different kids, and during their childhood they found a door into like another world, and all the worlds are different and unique, and then in some way they ended up back in our world. So there's a home where they can go to school and just kind of deal with the fact that they want to find their door back, and they can be around other kids who are dealing with that and feel like they don't necessarily belong in this world anymore. And yeah, book number 3 was my favorite. Basically, we're going to Candyland, and everything's just made out of candy, and I don't know, I just really enjoyed it. It's not everybody's favorite. I feel like this is one of the less loved ones, but it was my favorite. I thought it was the cutest thing ever. Okay, so the next question is to talk about some new releases that came out this year that I haven't read yet, but I am dying to. And I could not choose only one book for this. I do have quite a few, but the ones that came to mind for me are Malibu Rising by Taylor Jenkins Reid. I actually have this one. I just need to read it, and I'm planning on reading it this month. It just came out on June 1st, so I'm not like, it just came out, so it's not anything like it's been out for forever and I just haven't gotten to it. I love Taylor Jenkins Reid's writing. I adore her books. Evelyn Hugo's definitely my favorite out of all of them. But yeah, I can't wait to read this one. We're following a family and all the different siblings and something. It's like on the coast and they surf and I don't know. We'll find out more when I read it, which should be soon. I also really want to read One Last Stop by Casey McQuiston. Something about this book just sounds really fun. We've got like these two girls and one of them's traveling through time and they're meeting each other and there's a little love story between them and I don't know, it sounds adorably cute and fun. I'm actually reading Red, White, and Royal Blue by her right now, and so far so good. I am only like 10% into it, but if I love that one, I'm going to want to read this one even more. And then the other one was The Cost of Knowing, and this one's by Brittany Morris. And I am really interested in this one because I absolutely adored Slay this year by her, and I want to read more by her, and this one came out, and I was like, I need to get that. So that's got to happen soon. Okay, and then we're going to talk about some anticipated releases that are coming out in the second half of the year here. And I have a couple for this one as well. I'm really excited for Stephanie Garber's next book, which is Once Upon a Broken Heart. I have the Caraval series here. Loved the series, and this is her next book she's coming out with. And I honestly didn't know that she was coming out with a book until a few months ago, and I was like, what? I'm so excited. I love her writing. It's very like lyrical and magical, and I'm excited. So that one sounds fun. And then also Under the Whispering Door by TJ Klune. Oh my gosh, I cannot wait for this one. It's like a ghosty story, but it's kind of in that same vein as The House in the Cerulean Sea, where it's kind of like middle grade for adults. And it just like, I adored that book. It's one of my favorites from last year. So I definitely want to read this one. Like, it's high up on the list of like, I want to read this now. Okay, moving on here. We've got the biggest disappointment that I've had so far this year. Circe by Madeline Miller. I thought I was going to love this. I love a good character story, and Greek mythology sounded interesting, and everybody else seems to just adore the writing, and I was just like, totally going to love it. I DNF'd it. Let's see how far I made it. I still have my thing in here. 258. 258. I think there's like 350 pages or something. I just couldn't make it any farther. It was boring. All we're doing is following Circe and her really boring life, and I just, nope, wasn't for me. So now let's go into my biggest surprise of the year, and that was actually Slay by Brittany Morris. I mentioned this one a little bit earlier, but I honestly didn't think I would like this book as much as I did. I thought I would enjoy it, which is why it was on my TBR, but like, I loved this book. I finished it and I was like, I just want to go back and reread this book. It was fantastic, so well put together. The author was so smart about talking about some of these different social issues, but not feeling like it was super in your face, and just making you feel like you could be walking in this person's shoes better and understand their perspectives more, which I adored. I also loved the video game element in here and all the like creativity with that. I love a good book that like builds up some kind of world or something where it's just super creative and interesting, and they put in a lot of details to where you can just like imagine it in your mind. And I just adored that piece of it, along with like every other piece of this book. Like, this is definitely going in a top favorite. So the basic synopsis of this is we're following Kira. I think she's like 16 or 17, and she created this online game. It's like a reality game where you can like play with a bunch of other people. I can't think of the name of it right now. A multiplayer online game, and it's supposed to be for Black people, and a way for them to come together and have their own community, and the game was just amazing. But besides that, basically there's a squabble outside of the game over the game, and this young kid ends up getting murdered. And so then everybody's kind of like going after her, even though she's like kept her identity secret. Like, you need to come out, this is your phone. She's like feeling guilty. She's like, I don't know what's going on. And so just like, you know, her world kind of implodes in that way. And so you're kind of following her, kind of dealing with that, and following in some of her life stuff, and you're playing the game with her, and it's just, I just loved it. It It was really good. Okay, so we're on prompt number 7, and that is a favorite new author. And this can be a debut author or an author that's new to me. There's so many authors out there, and as much as like I will love a certain author and want to pick up all their stuff, I'm also very much like, if it sounds interesting and it's a new author to me, like I'm picking that up. So I've read a lot of authors that are new to me. So I decided to go with an author that this is their debut. I'm pretty sure this is a debut. It's also a new to me author if I'm incorrect. And they have something else out. I know they have some short stories and some different collections, but I'm pretty sure this is the only book. So that's Legendborn by Tracy Deonn. This woman wrote such an amazing story. It's got great character depth. It's got action and plot and intrigue and character dynamics and magic and representation and just like everything in this book, and it is wonderful. Had no idea I was gonna love this book so much. So we're following Bree, and her mom passes away, and she ends up going to this early college program. And while she's on campus the first night, she sees like these kids and this weird like being, and they're like taking care of it, and she's like, what is happening? And they try to erase her memory, but it kind of doesn't work, and that's not normal. And so she ends up kind of getting inducted into this secret society that's on campus of the Legendborn, and they're all like descendants of King Arthur and the Round Table, and it is just so much fun. There's some great like I said, characters and some friendships, some love interests. There's that kind of piece, but then there's also like magic and the secret society aspect, and it's got a fun game element in here too, in which she's trying to make it through these different trials and be picked to become part of them, and it had so much, and I just loved it, and I wanted to devour it like so fast. And it's semi-chunky. It's like 500 something pages, so it did take me a couple days, but man, I wish I could have just like read this book all day long. So now we have our newest fictional crush, and for this one I'm actually going to go with a character in the book that I just finished. I finished it yesterday. I finished it the day before, so I like just finished this book. But in Second First Impressions by Sally Thorne, Teddy was like the cutest ever. He's like a tattoo artist, so he's got all these tattoos on him, and he's just like this boy who just didn't get nurtured enough when he was a young kid, and he just wants to like have a set routine and something just that isn't all over the place and is very like normal. He just wants a normal life, and he just hasn't been able to have that, and he's so cute and fluffy and wonderful, and I just thought he was really sweet. And so yeah, he's my new fictional crush. I don't really get a lot of fictional crushes, but you know, he was a cutie. I was like, okay, we're gonna go with him. All right, and then the next one is my newest favorite fictional character. And for this, I went with Kara in Sleeping Giants by Sylvan Newell. I loved her perspective in here. She was just a crack up. She had this like sarcastic, witty personality that just like, I don't know, I just loved it. I think you could tell she was kind of like soft-shelled underneath, and that's probably why she gave off that attitude, but you know, I don't know, I just like that kind of like, I've got that hard shell and I'm a little sarcastic and attitude-y, but then underneath I'm a little squishy, and she was just making me laugh, and I just really enjoyed it. I didn't really tell you guys much about these last 2 books, so really fast. Second First Impressions is, okay, so our girl main character, she runs this like retirement village, and she may be turning a little bit into a grandma, like 25 going on 125, you know? And so she's cut like little cardigans, and she's even got like her glasses are on a chain, and she ends up having this temp in that's helping her with running the place, and she's like, you need to get out there, and she like starts helping her, and they become friends. So I really appreciated that there was a cute friendship going on that was building, as well as our romantic relationship. And then the owner of the property stops by and says, my son needs a place to stay. He has no more couches to surf on, and so he's going to stay in this extra house that's on there's like a duplex basically that she lives in half of to stay on the grounds, and then he's gonna live in the other half. And he's like, and she needs a job, or he needs a job. And she's like, I don't want him in my office. Oh, this is gonna be like a richy rich boy, right? And so she makes him be a personal assistant to these two old ladies that are just batty and weird, and they like to make their assistants do all kinds of crazy stuff, and usually only last a couple days. And so that's kind of, you know, where everything starts. And it was really cute and sweet. And she's, you know, he's trying to grow up, but she's kind of trying to act more her age and a little younger. And I just thought it was really sweet. And I enjoyed the fact that they kind of built a friendship. It was kind of not really friends to lovers because they weren't friends before, but they built a friendship really before they got romantically involved, and it was just really sweet. So that's that one. And then Sleeping Giants is a sci-fi, and this one's actually told in interview format, and I listened to it on audio, and the audiobook was incredible. So this one, we are following Dr. Well, actually, we don't really know our interviewer, but we start with our doctor, and she, when she's a kid, like falls into this giant hole, and she doesn't really remember very much about it, but many years later, she ends up getting her doctorate, and ends up working on this project, and it's like a giant mechanical hand that she landed in. It's like 18 feet long or 20 feet long or something really huge, and they're trying to find all the other pieces to make this huge, like, giant machine, and that's kind of what we're following. So we have this pilot and her co-pilot that are going around to find the pieces, and the doctor, and she's figuring out how to put everything together and how it all works and where to find the pieces and stuff like that. And our interviewer, he does not tell anything about himself, and he is very mysterious and curious, and definitely want to learn more about him in the next book, maybe, hopefully. I don't know, I flew through this book. I found it to be super fun and super amazing. Okay, so now we're going to go into a book that made you cry. And I've read a lot of books so far this year. I'm going to have like a stats and goals video coming out soon. We'll talk more about that. But I think I've read almost 80 books now. And so I was like, have I cried to any books? I'm like looking back, and I'm like, oh yeah. This one was like, I read back in January, so I'd forgotten that I'd read it this year. But I sobbed my bloody eyes out. And then when I thought we were done with the crying part, it just came back around, and there was more. And I was like, how is this happening? So anyways, that is A Monster Calls by Patrick Ness. Oh my gosh, I couldn't stop. I couldn't stop. I was crying so much. So in this book, we're following Connor, and basically this monster starts coming to his window in the middle of the night at like midnight, and he's asking that Connor tell him the truth, a truthful story, and he's like, you know what I'm talking about. Connor's just not ready, and so the monster's like, I'm going to tell you a few stories, and then you're going to tell me the truth. And it's about Connor and his mom is getting treatments for cancer, and it's about his grief, and that's ultimately like the heart of the story is about the grief. I will say, there is some really wonderful artwork in this book that just really adds to it, and it's very, very gorgeous. So, I don't know. It was touching and beautiful and wonderful, and if you ever pick up this book, if you haven't yet, you will bawl your eyes out. Bawl them out. There will be no more tears. Okay, and now we're going to talk about a book that made me happy. Well Met by Jen DeLuca. This was the cutest little book, and I loved the Renaissance Fair atmosphere going on. I think that just would always give me a smile on my face every time we were talking about it. And Emily, she's a bar wench, and she just was so fun, and just all of the characters. Honestly, there was so many fun characters that she became friends with. And then we have Simon. He's the one who runs the Renaissance Fair for the summer, and it's their romance. And it just, I don't know. There was a lot of happy, wonderful things going on in here, and it just made me smile when I was reading it, and made me want to go to a Renaissance Fair as well. But this book's basically about Emily. She moves in with her sister because her sister got into a bad accident. She is going through physical therapy, and she can't really walk or drive, and she has a daughter who, she's like 12 or something, 13, And so Emily is moving in to help her sister as well as help take care of her daughter. And her daughter really wants to do this Renaissance fair over the summer. It's like 6 weekends through the summer, but needs a parent chaperone. So Emily is like, okay, let's do it. And then she meets Simon, and Simon's not exactly friendly to her. And she's like, what did I ever do to you? And so they kind of get this little bantery thing going on, but it ends up being totally cute. And next we're going to talk about some pretty books. So the most beautiful book that I have bought or received so far this year. And so for this one, I decided to pull out a couple of my graphic novels that I got this year because I just love art in graphic novels. I think it's beautiful and gorgeous. So I did pick up Pumpkinheads. I'm going to read this again in the fall. I really enjoyed this one, but it's just such an autumn like color palette, and I love graphic novels. Like, the art's just beautiful. And this one is just fall in a graphic novel. Like, it's all about autumn. We're at a pumpkin patch, and we're just following these friends go through for the last time. It's the last time they're going to be working there before they go off to college. And they're hitting all the sites, and it's super fun and cute. I will also say that I would add a Monster Calls in here. I just already talked about it, but like I already talked about, the art in there is gorgeous. And then we have The Long Way Down by Jason Reynolds. And I really enjoyed the graphic novel adaptation of this. I've listened to the audiobook as well. Sorry about the cat. But yeah, it's very impactful with the art in here as well. It's a very impactful story in general. So our main character, his brother is basically shot and killed, and there's 3 rules in their neighborhood, and you don't snitch, and you don't cry, and you get revenge. And so he's setting out to get revenge for his brother. And he gets in the elevator, and each floor that he stops on, somebody gets on. It says 60 seconds, 7 floors, 3 rules, 1 gun. So basically every floor, somebody that's from his past that has been killed by gun violence gets on and tells a little bit more about his story or her story, and helps him make this decision as to whether he's going to do this or not. And just kind of an honorable mention in here, I just got this as my book of the month pick this month, Half Sick of Shadows by Laura Sebastian. And I thought it was such a pretty cover. It's got this like green and black look. It's like a King Arthur retelling of some kind, which I was intrigued by because I loved Legendborn so much. It says, the story of Camelot is hers. But like, I don't know, I just really liked the green with the gold, and it just felt very medieval-y times, and then the inside's the black and gold. I just thought it was really pretty, so I figured I'd mention that one. And the last question here is, what books do I need to read by the end of the year? So I can't think of specifically certain ones I'm like, that has to happen, but just so many books. Like, I have just put out a video about books that are going to self-destruct in 12 months, so I really need to work on getting through some of those. I want to read more books off my bookshelf because that's one of my goals this year. I have tons of goals this year, so I will make sure that I have all these videos for you guys down below. I also want to try and read more of my Book of the Month Club books, because if I'm getting them, I should be reading them, right? Right. So yeah, that's just kind of some kind of books that I need to get to, but you know, I don't know, I read for fun, and I don't necessarily have to get through certain books. Whatever ends up on my Belle's Book Plan TBR, that's what I have to read, pretty much. So there you have it, guys. Hope you guys are having a wonderful day. If you haven't already subscribed, please do, and let me know down below some of your answers to these questions. Share with me what you've read this year, what you've enjoyed, what was your most beautiful book, what haven't you enjoyed? Tell me all, guys. Tell me all. I love chatting with you guys. Bye, guys.